Central Park with the gorgeous Sammy Davis. It's a beautiful New York day, perfect autumnal weather. It's exactly when I want to be here. I feel blessed that I am here in lovely company. And we are in Central Harlem, and you chose this area for us to meet today, Sammy, so tell us a little bit about why.
I did. Well, I live in Harlem. I've lived here for 6 years. I moved here from Philadelphia, which is in Pennsylvania, and I just really love the area because it's still urban. There's still like the rush and the energy of New York City, but it's peaceful. You can take a breather. You don't hear all the sirens, all the beeps that you would if you were to live in like Soho or Chelsea. So I love being accessible to the park because this is the beginning of Central Park, and then you can enter and go do your thing.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing about Central Park, you consider people watching all day long. But I would say a lot of people are watching you because you are very creative, full of energy.
Thank you.
And I know one of the reasons I got in touch was because obviously the vintage love that you're spreading, and also with the affirmations. So I was thinking, this is cool. This girl's bringing both of them together. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about you. I have read lots about you. I'm sure anyone in the States knows about you, but maybe in Ireland they don't necessarily. So tell me a little bit about, firstly, how you even got involved in vintage.
Like most vintage lovers, Salvation Army, we can thank him, the man that always satisfies me. I began thrifting at a very young age, and I was a very, very creative being, and so that was my sense of personal expression. And I wore vintage to both my proms, and then when I went to college, I was like, oh wow, there are vintage stores in Philly. This is a culture, and this is something that is an economy. So when I moved to New York City and realized that vintage was a little bit more expensive here, I came up with the idea that I would start selling it.
And
so exactly. And in 2008, the flea market culture was burgeoning, and it was still a little bit like under the radar, so you could get your foot in the door. And I would go home to Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from. I'm from the antiques capital of the East Coast, actually.
Very nice.
Lancaster, Adamstown, that whole area. And I would buy a vintage, and I loved the 80s back then. I don't know what I was thinking. Now I'm more of a 60s girl, but I love the 80s, and I would sell in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn girls love the 80s, like stonewash and like high-waisted jeans and tapered legs. And I loved connecting with women over vintage. And so I coined it Vintage Love. And because of the internet blossoming as it did, I founded a social media platform, my website, I started blogging, and then I started making videos for YouTube because this city is the fashion capital of the world, arguably. Therefore, there's a lot of vintage. There are many vintage brick and mortar stores, flea markets, individual sellers, and I wanted to showcase them to the world. So I built my platform like that, and I call it Spreading Vintage Love because it's not just about like, oh, I love this garment, like I love it, I just feel so good. It's about supporting an artist. Because these sellers are artists. They curate these goods like children. And they want to see them find happy homes. And I like to think of, and you're wearing something from the 60s, right? Yeah. And I am as well. Houndstooth. And so our 60s garments, like there's a spirit, there's an energy to them. Why are they still on this planet? How did we find them as like the second or third owners? I think there's something really powerful to that is spiritual, and you feel more connected to your clothes so that you don't throw them away. Or at the very least, if you outgrow it or something happens to it, you give it to someone else that can give it new, tender, loving care. I think that vintage will always be cycling throughout fashion, where the vintage I own today, maybe my daughter will own in the future, or someone else, and that'll be incredible because it'll be like 2040 and it'll be this, you know, antique 1960s dress. But I want women to continue to feel connection to their clothes. If they're buying new designers today, if they're investing in small designers, keep those garments, keep them for the future. Honor the person who made them, honor what they represent culturally.
For me, obviously I'm a female, I like female fashion. I like male fashion as well, but I certainly, you can nearly see the evolution of the role of women over the decades by the clothes that they've been wearing. So I think that's really exciting as well. And definitely, you know, if you're buying something now, try not to go for disposable fashion, because at the end of the day, if you save and love something, you look after it more, it has longevity, and again, in a few years' time, someone's going to be wearing that, and it's going to be vintage.
I love when I find a vintage garment and the name tag is in it, and I'm like, oh, you know, Sally, May.
Sally.
Oh, Sally, you own such a great wardrobe, and like, I wish I could meet you and shake your hand. The best is when the sellers, they meet the previous owners, because they do the closet buyouts, and especially in America, where we are consumerists and have been since the 1940s, just because of, you know, our culture and the amount of factories here. So you will enter a woman's wardrobe and be like mesmerized that she has kept these things for so many years.
I know.
I hope women of today will do the same.
And look after them as much. Well, that's the thing. That is, I think that does come from really caring about what you get in the first place as well.